What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we had the PlayStation State of Play yesterday, and it didn't go very well. So it was an alright presentation in terms of format and everything, but didn't go over very well with fans. We're going to go over all of what was in there and everything, and maybe talk a bit about why that is. Then we also saw Apple introduce their own subscription service for gaming. It's called Apple Arcade, and it could work, but it sounds like the way they're going to do it might not be the best. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to like button. It does help out. We're actually going to start today with Shantae, as it looks like the fifth one has actually been announced, as you're seeing in a tweet here, where way forward says, "Today we're thrilled to announce Shantae 5. You're invited to join Shantae in a brand new adventure later this year on PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PC, and the newly announced Apple Arcade." Yeah, it's going there as well, so Apple is most likely kind of picking up some of these exclusives and everything. Stay tuned for more details. And then they ask you to go check out more about Apple Arcade, so yeah, that kind of tells you a bit about where some of the funding's coming from. But hey, I mean, if they had to kickstart, well, at least they crowdsourced one of the older ones, of course, and we just had Half Genie Hero, so we've had a couple of them, and the last one was, what, 2016, then 2017 also went to the Switch, so it's already been on a bunch of different platforms, and here we are now with the fifth one with a working title. No information at all outside of what they've tweeted so far, so we'll have to kind of keep an eye on it, see any other information. I mean, we got PAX coming up, so maybe they'll talk about it there, or maybe they'll wait until maybe something like E3 or just a press release at some point in time leading up to E3. Either way, though, it should be cool, especially for Shantae fans, to get another one. Also, do you remember how Bethesda was keeping things like Fallout 76 pretty much exclusive to their launcher, where they could essentially reinforce their own terms of services and everything, and of course get all of the profits and the money? Well, it looks like they might be turning around on that, maybe, as you're seeing a tweet that they put out here, where they say, "We're pleased to announce that Rage 2, Wolfenstein Youngblood, Wolfenstein Cyberpilot, and Doom Eternal will be released on Steam, as well as their Bethesda Games launcher. We will also be bringing Fallout 76 to Steam later this year." I don't really know how many people on Steam are like, "Oh, finally, Fallout 76. It hasn't gone well for that game, obviously, but Doom Eternal making its way there. Obviously, Youngblood's making its way there. Rage 2. Rage 2 especially, I think, really needs Steam. I feel like if it doesn't go to Steam, it might get lost on their own Bethesda launcher. But it tells me maybe sales, maybe they're even thinking about, they're like, you know what, sales would be better if we also put it on Steam and then also have it on our launcher. And they must have worked out the math and been like, yeah, Steam takes 30%. I'm honestly more surprised that Epic didn't show up and say, "Hey, let's get you guys on the Epic Game Store. We'll give you a better cut and everything." That's the part that surprises me a bit, that Epic didn't go for some sort of exclusivity with one of these games. Either way, though, if you're a Steam user who just likes using Steam, you're probably pretty excited about this news. And if you've been thinking about picking up a LabOh kit, whether it's the Variety Kit or the Robot Kit, well, it looks like at Target, at least, they have them heavily discounted. So it's kind of a heads up for you if you've been thinking about it, because they have them selling anywhere from like $17 up to like $21. But for kits that are generally anywhere between 40 and like 80 bucks, again, depending on sales and everything, that's actually not terrible. Here's the thing about LabOh, though. You might want to get it on sale, considering most of the experience is actually building the stuff, because when I built mine, for example, the piano, you didn't do much with it, and then it kind of went in the closet. Pretty much all of them. The fishing game, the bike game and everything. You play around with it, and it's a cool thing to put together, because you have to really see how they make it all work, and kind of looking at it from an engineering perspective, it's very, very clever, some of the things they do. But let's be real, some of those games are just like time wasters. You know, like you play 5 or 10 minutes, and you're like, that was pretty fun, and then it goes away. But if you have like younger kids that you might want to spend some time with on a rainy day putting stuff together, yeah, it's probably worth 20 bucks for an occasion like that. And again, it's pretty good for the kids trying to learn how to put everything together and get some critical thinking and motor skills going. And guys, with some of the quick stuff out of the way, let's get into the bigger things. And we're going to start with the Sony's PlayStation State of Play. Now, we had seen this before, and it looked like it was going to be a Nintendo Direct style format, and it was, which I like. I like this format. I think Sony has something here, and this is their first one. So the way I looked at it was, okay, it's probably not going to be ridiculous. Like, they're probably not going to have the craziest announcements ever, but I was looking for release dates on some of their bigger stuff, because they're not going to E3. So I said, okay, if they're going to release a Death Stranding or a Last of Us 2, then maybe they should put us a release date out. You know, give us something. Say, hey, it's coming out in the fall. Even if they did Last of Us 2 2019, I think people would be okay with that, but none of that was here at all. In fact, I guess one of the biggest game they showed here was Days Gone, and we already know when that's coming out, and most people probably already have decided if they're buying it or not. But anyway, here's kind of, I guess, a listing of what they did. DualShockers had a good write-up. We also did a live stream here and kind of went through everything. And let's just start with Concrete Genie, because that was something they showed. It's not coming out till fall 2019, and I remember seeing this, I believe, last year, and it's from Pixel Opus. And I liked the look of it mostly because it's much different than what we've seen from a lot of Sony stuff recently, which is a much grittier, violent style game. This one was very bright, colorful, cartoony, but it has an interesting idea that kind of reminds me a bit of like an Epic Mickey even. And I like the idea of it, but it's not coming out till fall of 2019. I thought originally it was going to be coming earlier 2019, but I guess it had to fall later on. This was a very VR heavy show, I will say that. Blood and Truth was also shown with an in-depth trailer, and it has a release date of May 28th, which looks like a much better VR experience than we usually get, where VR experiences look very gimmicky and kind of mini-game-like. This looks like a full-on, like, straightforward game, which is good to see. The one that really kills me, and I know it annoyed a lot of people, right in the beginning they showed Iron Man VR. And it looked like originally it was just going to be an Iron Man game. People got really excited. They said, oh, this is going to be great. It looks like Iron Man. Maybe it's kind of like the same idea of Spider-Man, but with Iron Man instead. No, it's a VR game. It's just Iron Man VR. It looked like he was kind of just shooting stuff out of the air. So I guess it's kind of a flying simulator and you're shooting stuff. Sometime 2019 is when they're going to have it come out, I guess. So I don't really know why they started with that, because it looked like it was going to go in a whole different direction. Five Nights at Freddy's VR actually looks like it could be kind of neat, kind of fun. Five Nights at Freddy's was already kind of set up because you don't really do much walking at all, really. It's mostly looking at cameras and everything, or looking at your map, and that actually makes sense. However, I feel like it's going to be very terrifying, so I don't know how many people are going to want to get in on that, but for Five Nights at Freddy's fans, that is going to really, I think, be exciting for them. Mortal Kombat 11 got a story trailer, and they revealed Jax, Liu Kang, Kung Lao, and it looks like Shaolin monks, which is awesome. I got excited about that. I said, okay, cool. This looks like Shaolin monks, and I'm really into that, because if you've played Shaolin monks on something like the original Xbox or the PS2, it is an outstanding game. It's a really fun beat-em-up style co-op game that you can play with a friend, and it's really, really good, and I hope they do incorporate that into the game, and some of the stuff they showed with some of the cutscenes and some of the build-ups to character reveals, you know what, it does look like that, so I'm excited for Mortal Kombat 11, but what's weird here is they ended with that. So the build-up felt like they were getting like... So I looked at the VR stuff and I said, okay, that reminds me of the 3DS stuff at the Nintendo Direct, you know, the stuff that people are like, okay, fine, and it's there, but no one's... I think there are people excited, but like the vast majority of people are like, VR stuff. And then they move on, and then we get to the good stuff, right? Well, that good stuff never really came. It was... They showed like Crash Team Racing, and we know a lot about that already. It wasn't anything that made us get excited, I think, was the big problem. And I feel like Sony's going to learn from this. Like, if you take a look, for example, here's their like to dislike ratio on their video. It's not great, right? It's like 50% at best with like to dislike. So that's not good. And again, I look at this and say, okay, Sony probably could have started strong with a game that wasn't a VR game, that wasn't kind of a fake out for Iron Man, and instead open with something much bigger like Medieval. That would have been a good way to get started, Medieval release date and everything, and then end with something big like a Death Stranding release date and reveal with one of those crazy trailers or something, or Last of Us 2 2019. That probably would have been enough right there to cement the whole thing. That's what I've kind of learned with Nintendo Directs. You can have these down times in the middle when nothing's happening, but as long as you start strong and end strong, ending strong is the biggest thing, most people will say that was a good Direct. So I think Sony is going to learn from this. We'll have, I'm sure, plenty more state of plays, and I'm sure they'll work on it, and it should hopefully get better. Now, you might be asking, why did they do a ton of VR? Well, Sony put out a press release alongside of all of these announcements for VR games from State of Play, saying that their VR headset is now sold through 4.2 million, which is actually a lot compared to other VR headsets that aren't too keen with sharing exact numbers. Sony is pretty good about it, but other companies don't really want to talk too much about exact numbers, as percentages, and how much they've sold through. Sony's just like, yeah, we sold 4.2 million. That's actually pretty good for a headset. VR headsets are still early adopting right now, and to see that many is good. I understand why they're pushing it. I fully expect VR to be pushed just as much next to the PlayStation 5. So for people who aren't a fan of VR, I don't really know what to tell you. It's not going anywhere for Sony, at least. Next up, let's talk about Apple, because they had this full event. They showed off a bunch of products, a lot of services actually, Apple TV Plus, for example, and their Apple Arcade, which is their subscription service. So we kind of talked a little bit about this. Some of the rumors going around that Bloomberg were reporting on, and it sounds like they were pretty much dead on. There is a subscription-based service coming from Apple that appears to be launching later on 2019. We're thinking fall 2019, so somewhere in there. We don't really know pricing yet for the subscription, but it is going to be 100 games or so that they're going to have added in, and there's going to be cross progression. So just as an example, if you're playing on your iPhone and then you want to change over to your Mac computer, you can do that. It'll change between them, and they can be played offline. They put out a full trailer, and we just talked about Shantae 5, for example, being on this Apple Arcade service, and according to them, it's going to work across several different devices, whether it's your iPhone, iPad, Mac, or even your Apple TV, I guess, as long as they are able to be run by that device. That's the thing I'm curious about, because I'm sure some games will be a bit more demanding than others. But then they also talked about how they're going to have a ton of exclusive games. Again, exclusive games are important for these services, from developers and creators from things like Final Fantasy, The Sims. So they're definitely pulling in some talent to work on games, and that's going to be the biggest thing. Is how can they get people to sign up with games, obviously, but good at games, good exclusives. And then the other thing we heard about from Bloomberg the other day was that it will be judged based on how much time is spent in these games. So I hope these developers don't look for loopholes and stuff, trying to get you to play the games through grinding and other measures, and that the games are just good. Now, the subscription cost is also going to be important. Is this $10 a month? Is this $15 a month? Are there tiers? That's kind of the thing. I'd like to see it be like a Netflix of like $10 a month, and then you have it across all of your devices. But if the games aren't good, the pricing won't matter. So that's the biggest thing. Netflix still makes a lot of original series and original movies and stuff to get you to sign up for it, and they're against Hulu and others. So Apple, being against some of the big game companies right now, really need to bring it with their games. I like the shots they took, by the way, at Google, saying you can play offline with your games, whereas Google, of course, needs to be connected to the internet at all times. So either way, we still need to find out a bit more about this, but at least for now, you know what? Apple actually came out with an interesting idea that we'll see if they can actually push going forward. Next up, let's talk about Samurai Shodown, as Gematsu actually had a massive amount of gameplay footage of this thing. It's like 40-something minutes of it. They posted it up on YouTube, and I gotta say, it looks awesome, super stylish. They have those really cool dramatic moments where you have your finisher and like the blood sprays out, but they have it kind of like almost like a reddish and then like a black blood coming out and stuff. It looks really, really cool so far. Fans of the older Samurai Shodown games are going to be all over this. Like, I know Evan's going to be all about this game, but it is coming to all platforms. Remember originally we heard it was like PlayStation and then we didn't hear much else? Well, it looks like it is coming to everything, and they're going to be kind of tiered a bit. Like I said, Gematsu had the gameplay, they had some of the release dates and stuff, and this is also going to be at PAX East, it appears, so this weekend you might even see more footage come out, but it looks like it's coming out for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in June. It'll be coming to the Switch Q4 of 2019, and then PC at a later date. So we're not really sure about PC. That could even be like next year, especially if Switch is Q4 of 2019. By the way, this also kind of falls into place about that rumor we heard about like last year about that Switch Pro and that this game would support it. And they knew that it was coming to the Switch at the time, whereas it was a lot of confusion going on. So keep that in mind. This does actually kind of point to that Reddit post as well. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Definitely. But this is actually being done in Unreal Engine 4. It's very exciting looking. They're going to have 16 total fighters, including 13 returning characters and 3 brand new characters. Pretty cool. And they'll have, of course, because it's a fighting game, additional characters and content after release. Season pass probably, yeah. But either way, this looks good. I'm excited, and I want to see more about it going into PAX. And then, of course, I kind of want to see what it looks like on the Switch, but we'll at least get our first taste of it in June on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Samurai Shodown. Are you excited to hear that it's pretty much coming to everything? We're looking at Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Switch, and then PC. But what do you think that means about that rumor that we heard it coming to the Switch with Pro enhancements? And it's not coming out for the end of this year, which is interesting because that might line up when the Pro and the Mini come out. Interesting stuff there. Let's keep an eye on that one. What about Apple Arcade? Do you think that has a chance in like the cell phone mixing with like their own like Mac and console? It's basically their whole ecosystem coming together. And then finally, what about State of Play? Were you disappointed? Were you excited? If you're a VR person, I'm sure you're excited. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.